Welcome back to Big Mouth, and fancy seeing you here. And you're very welcome to be in my bedroom. A bit of a mess, so ignore what's going on behind me. Can I just say something? Right now, our fandom has got sheriffs and police officers telling us how we should behave, what we should like, what we shouldn't like, how we should behave. Right? Can I just say something to those people? Listen, we are the honest ones. The Doctor Who franchise has been dumbed down, and it's not just with season 11. It's been going on for a hell of a long time now. It's really slowly been happening since Russell T Davies left the franchise. Don't tell me I have to like Doctor Who. I love Doctor Who. I love the concept. I love the classic series. I loved Russell's revival seasons. I loved all of it, and I even loved some of Moffat's, right? But what's happened with season 11 with Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall is an absolute disgrace. So I've got that out the way. So basically, every fan has a right to speak freely. Right. Now, in 2005, when the show come back, the biggest elephant in the room was how they would handle the Daleks. Now, to us Doctor Who fans, the Daleks are fantastic. What did Julie Gardner call them? The former producer of the show, who was in charge of BBC Drama in Wales. She said they were tremendous in an episode of Doctor Who Confidential. They're beautiful, and they are. And really, the new Who designers gave us a brand new, beautiful design of the Daleks. So I want to compare Robert Sherman's episode called Dalek in season 1, and I want to compare that to Resolution, which we just recently had aired on New Year's Day. Now, to the mainstream audience who don't really watch Doctor Who, the Daleks are silly. They're stupid. They're like these tin walking and talking pepper pots. And to them, they're not intimidating. They're not scary. And so Russell T Davies had a really hard thing to do because he had created a Doctor Who that was attracting the mainstream audience. So how do you make them relatable and scary and frightening? And for you as someone who's never watched Doctor Who before, really being intimidated by these creatures, by these aliens. And what Robert Sherman did, and by the way, Robert Sherman hasn't written an episode of Doctor Who since, but he has been involved with Big Finish. I don't understand why he hasn't been involved in the TV show since. I think that's ridiculous. But Robert Sherman gave us something very, very special. Now, because this was like the only Dalek in existence as far as we knew at the time, what Robert Sherman did, he gave us a Dalek that was scared. He was scared of his own existence because he couldn't be a Dalek anymore. His shooter wouldn't shoot. He wasn't a threat anymore. And this absolutely scared the Dalek to its core. And so he meets the Doctor, for a very first time in a long time, right? And the Doctor's got the advantage here. The Doctor's angry. Eccleston's performance when he first sees that Dalek is outstanding. He's shouting and spit's coming out of his mouth. It really is old Shakespearean type acting. Now you've got to understand, Chris Eccleston, in terms of what he's doing, he's got all these cameras around him and he's talking to this metal thing, right? But Eccleston sells it. He sells it so beautifully. But it's not that hard when you've got Bob Sherman's writing, have you? Because so good. So all of a sudden, this Dalek is relatable. It's the only thing of its kind. It's, it's survived the Time War. It's arrived on Earth. It's been drilled and tortured. And when you hear it screaming, Nick Pegg, a great job. I think that was his first Dalek performance on the show. I'm not sure how long he'd been doing it on Big Finish for. So yeah, brilliant. When you hear that Dalek scream when they're using that drill, oh my God, you actually feel sorry for the Dalek. I mean, which is saying you'd be stupid to do because the moment you pity a Dalek is when you're at your worst. So basically, Rose sees the Dalek and she starts talking to the Dalek and empathizing with the Dalek. The Dalek sucks her in. She touches it. The Dalek uses her DNA to get his powers back, basically. And then we see the shit hit the fan. Ultimately, within this story, we do get it really does make you relate to this Dalek, and it also you relate to why the Doctor hates them, but you do relate to the Dalek. And when the shell opens up and you see the Dalek in its truest of forms, it's a beautiful moment when the Doctor wants to shoot it. And, you know, Rose is lecturing the Doctor quite rightly because she hasn't seen this side of the Doctor before. She can't empathise with what the Doctor's gone through, obviously what the Daleks did. I mean, they forced him to have to destroy his own planet. So it's massive. But it's a beautifully told story from the Daleks' perspective and the Doctor's perspective. And it really set up the relationship between the Doctor and the Daleks for the whole of the revival. So we get to Resolution. In the setup, this could have been as powerful as Dalek, right? This Dalek was defeated by these armies, right? These ancient armies and all these pieces of this Dalek hidden. Now, that's quite a big deal for any entity. But they didn't, I know the Daleks haven't got an emotion, but they could have made us relate to what the Daleks been through. But the whole thing didn't work. It didn't have the soul. It didn't have the structure. The dialogue for the Dalek was just not threatening. I mean, let alone the crap, the 18 moment when the woman who's been taken over by this Dalek starts building in that little that yard bit, and this is meant to be a shout out to the season premiere when the Doctor creates her own screwdriver. I still don't know how she did that. Look, it's all pretty ridiculous, but the point is, and the reason I've done this video is to show you the era of the first season of the revival and the mentality of depth of making us really feel something for the Daleks, because if you've never watched Doctor Who before, you think they're stupid. But I know so many at the time that were kids or young teenagers, because I'm 46, right? So they were saying to me, wow, I thought the Daleks were stupid. But this was a great episode. And this is the thing. And this is what Robert Sherman and Russell T Davies were able to do. This was the 21st century TV viewers' first chance to have a look at the Daleks. And it's done well. Now, if we look at Resolution, a lot of young people would have been watching this, right? And this would have been the first time they saw a Dalek. And I don't think they would have been impressed. And if you were impressed, go and watch Dalek, right? Go and watch every single Russell T Davies era Dalek. And there's one or two that are not great, but mostly I think Russell did a great job. And I loved seeing them every year, despite what people said. But what we got on New Year's Day was absolutely so powder puff, so meaningless. And when I look back at what we got with Dalek, saying extremely special, a Dalek story with soul, a writer who gave a Dalek soul, you actually had empathy with that Dalek in the end. Why do we survive? It says to the Doctor. The Doctor says, I don't know. It's a very emotional moment. These two enemies in a very similar situation, they are the last of their kind. And on some level, the Doctor empathises with the Dalek, and maybe the Dalek empathises with the Doctor, because ultimately the Doctor shows that Dalek compassion and lets it die. What Rose does for that Dalek is amazing. The Dalek just wants to die. It's such a powerful story. So this is why people are angry, because we are watching dumbed down Doctor Who with nothing, with lazy writing that just wants to go through the motions. And we are going to get a season 12 of this, and it isn't going to change. We must carry on talking about what's being done to Doctor Who. That's the only way. And another message to the Doctor Who sheriffs. If you really believe what you're seeing is great, then you have to ask yourselves, are you truly Doctor Who fans?